address so we can tell people where to reach you on the screen. You've got a lot of detail on this, Alyce, and I appreciate it. Who can serve as a parent coordinator?
Well, the judges have a lot of range of what they can, who they can appoint. A lot of lawyers are appointed, and mental health professionals, counselors, social workers, therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists. But if there's somebody who has special talents, special professional training for a particular case, if there was someone who had a particular issue, possibly an education issue or something like that, we could hire someone who has educational issues. If we have a mentally ill child or a child who has special needs, we may want an expert in those fields of people who know what services are available, that sort of thing. They can help the parents through the quagmire.
How does, if some of our viewers wanted to become a parent coordinator, is there something they could do to become a parent coordinator, or how do you get into the...
There is. We're actually looking in the fall of 2008, we're looking at another parenting coordinator training. So the presiding judge is going to be putting on that training, and the date is not set yet.
Charge for the...
I don't know. Whether there's going to be a charge for that or not. But Sally Simmons...
who's coming on our show. We'll have to ask, that is the question we'll ask her.
She is working hard at that. She's a wonderful judge and really has some good ideas for training and helping a lot of us through the process.
If you're interested in that, I would suggest that you go to our website or email us, and we'd be happy to get you that information once we get it. Or to Alyce also. I'm sure she would be to do that. It seems to me that there's also some issues here where people are dissatisfied and they may want to sue the parent coordinator, or does the parent coordinator have immunity, or how does that work if somebody gets into a malpractice? You have to have special insurance, or what happens?
The statutes and the court orders will provide immunity for the parenting coordinator. However, if parties are unhappy with the parenting coordinator, or if the parenting coordinator believes that it's not appropriate to continue on anymore, anybody can petition the court to have the court look at whether this parenting coordinator should be removed and a new one put in, or whether the parenting coordinator should be relieved of services because the parties are not paying the fees or not cooperating, or it doesn't seem to be serving the purpose. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen.
What about not getting paid?
That can happen.
And what happens in that situation if one, and I'm assuming that the parties both are equally responsible for paying, one party pays and one party doesn't pay, what happens?
Well, actually, it's up to the court or up to the parties initially to spell out what percentage each parent's going to pay. Often it's 50-50, but if the parties' incomes are very different, and we have a high earner and someone who really is not earning or not working, we can have 100% paid by one party on a regular basis. However, the parent coordinator has the ability to assess fees. So if somebody's very bad in the parent coordinating meeting, or seems to be abusing the process, or really is just not conforming to orders, we can assess fees disproportionately to what the order is. That we're allowed to do that.
That's good. I think you alluded a little bit to the training coming up. Is there any other training that parent coordinators have to do, or just the court-sponsored training?
The court-sponsored training is the only training that's required to be appointed. I think that my mediation training was some of the most helpful training for me for these issues, as well as just in practice. So I think mediation is always good training.
Is there a length of time that the parent coordinator serves for, or is it indefinite, or is it end when the children turn 18, or what's the time frame?
Well, most of the cases are for 1 or 2 years. It's rare to have a length of service longer than that.
Why is that?
I think that the general consensus is that it's probably a good idea to do it for a short period of time, relatively short period of time, because parents may outgrow the need for it, number one, and number two, it may be that we need to look at the situation to determine whether a different parent coordinator would come in with a fresh eye. Sometimes the parent coordinators are just like the judges have become a little bit burned out with these families. Sometimes the parent coordinator needs a break and a new set of people.
Does that happen off once again?
Rarely. But the courts don't want it to be servitude for a long period of time, simply because sometimes we need to reevaluate that. How are things going? Do we really need this? 1 to 2 years is generally what the court order is.
Okay, and then they can continue it or get a new parent coordinator after that if they, they want to do that.
Right.
I think you've alluded this to once again. If the people aren't happy with the parent coordinator, they can petition the court and get a new parent coordinator.
Well, they can petition the court, and then the court determines whether they're being reasonable about it or not. I've had the court say, no, you're going to stay with this parent coordinator. I have had the court say, well, you two obviously don't deserve a parent coordinator, so you're coming back to me. So the judge sometimes is not happy with people complaining about the parent coordinator.
What happens if one parent wants the parent coordinator, one parent doesn't want the parent coordinator? How does that play out?
Again, the judge is going to look at the facts and circumstances to see if people are being reasonable and make a decision that's best for the kids.
Do you go back to court on these kind of things often, or?
Not very often. Not very often. But parents do have that ability, and then each judge is a little bit different about how they review the parent coordinator's recommendations. Some of the judges will not even grant a hearing. They'll simply say, I've looked at the ruling and I'm not going to grant a hearing, and I'm ordering that it is to be obeyed.
Are there ever multiple parent coordinators, more than one per case? I mean, for instance, I do co-mediation with my wife, and so I'm under the co-parent where you'd have a therapist kind of combination, or some people where they need more than one, or is it just usually one?
I have not seen that, but certainly you could have different folks of different professional abilities on a different case. I often will communicate with therapists and experts as the parent coordinator. So one thing that's a lot different than going to court is that the parent coordinator can do interviews of witnesses, can call up the school teacher and say, Mom says this, Dad says this, what's your perception? And so we can contact the child's therapist, we can contact the child's doctor, we can contact a lot of professionals and pull them onto the team by having them help us and give us advice.
But this raises an interesting question in terms of confidentiality with a parent coordinator. Is there any situation where, the parent coordinator is doing something and then they get called into court as a witness, or is that this doesn't happen?
In our county, the judges do not like to have the parent coordinators called to court. Indeed, in most of the orders, the court will order that the parent coordinator is not to be called into court as a witness. But each judge is a little bit different, and each situation is a little bit different. I had a request at one time that I was making specifically of the judge, and so the judge wanted to see me and hear from me what my perspective was. Usually, the parent coordinator does not go to court and is not required under the rule and under the court orders to answer questions about the decision making.
Once again, I think you've alluded a little bit to this, but also if the parents aren't listening to you, what do you do?
Depends on what the circumstances are. Each case is a little bit different. I have some cases that come to mind where I have ordered certain things. Exchanges is a common one. I have ordered, go to the McDonald's and you sit in your car and send little Johnny in to Mom. And then on the reverse, then the other parent will go and sit in their car and send little Johnny into the other parent. So I have real specific, and no eye contact, no.
Is this all in writing, or how do you communicate this to the parties?
It's all in a written recommendation that's filed with the court and a copy sent to both lawyers and both parents. And so I will give a specific outline of how they're to do their exchanges, and then we'll have people saying, oh, he yelled at me, he made a rude gesture to me, he came in and started yelling at me, she refused to cooperate, she refused to communicate with me. So we'll have people saying that the other person has violated it, and so I will often have to have the next level up. So sometimes we'll go to supervised exchange where a professional is paid to receive the child, and then the one parent goes away and the other parent comes and picks up the child. So sometimes we have to go to the next level. We're
beginning to run out of time, Alyce. Any parting words that you want to have before we wrap up?
I just would thank you for having me here to be able to explain a little bit about parent coordinators. I think parent coordinators serve a good function for our children.
I think it's good. I think children really come first in that. You've been watching Divorce TV with your host Wally Marcus and with Alyce Pennington talking about parenting coordination. If you want more information about the program or Alyce or any of the other things, take a look at the information at the bottom of your screen. And once again, thank you for watching the show with us.